Frontline is made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Inside the West Wing, a new force was taking hold, a presence that was felt but not seen.
There was a powerful gravitational pull. I didn't know where it was or who it was. It was strange, it was new, but the president was gravitating in a different direction. So there must be somebody, there must be something there.
Neither cabinet members nor the new press secretary, Mike McCurry, had a clue.
And it was frustrating a little bit to know that there was some other group of advisors that were working, or some kitchen cabinet, or some process that was not part of the defined process at the White House.
Unknown to them, Clinton had an old trick up his sleeve. At times of trouble in his career, one wily operative had successfully guided Clinton back to the political center. Because this man was a mercenary with no party loyalty, Clinton knew he would have to seek his counsel in secret.
From his point of view, he had a liberal Democratic staff that disapproved of everything I would urge, and he wasn't about to announce me with great fanfare if I wasn't able to really make the grade and give him advice that was effective. So both of us were sort of having a trial marriage, and we both figured it was better for me to be involved secretly, so I made up a code name, Charlie.
Charlie. First time I ever saw the word Charlie was on a little yellow Post-it note on the president's desk next to his phone saying Charlie called. That's odd. You just sort of file it away.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
At the height of West Wing gossip about Charlie's identity, the president delivered this State of the Union speech.
If we agree on nothing else tonight, we must agree that the American people certainly voted for change in 1992 and in 1994.
Much to the staff's surprise, Clinton told them he had written this speech himself, and it was different in tone, in its agenda.
Let us put aside partisanship and pettiness and pride. As we embark on this new course, let us put our country first, remembering that regardless of party label, we are all Americans.
In truth, Clinton had a ghostwriter. He and Charlie had written much of the speech in secret up in the private residence on the 3rd floor of the White House.
The staff knows that he doesn't know how to type, so he didn't want me to type a draft into the White House computer, because then the staff would figure out that that wasn't his draft. So we hunted all throughout the residence for a manual or electric typewriter, you know, from the Stone Ages, and they found this dusty IBM Selectric, and the guy lugged it upstairs to his office and blew off the dust, and then I sit there typing the draft. Then, as we finished each page, he would take it into his other room, and he'd copy it over, left-handed, in longhand, so that he could give it to his staff and say, this wasn't a speechwriter's draft, this is my draft. I stayed up all night working on it.
Finally, of course, it became impossible to conceal Charlie's identity. At first, he had powerful allies in Hillary Clinton and in Vice President Al Gore. The staff reluctantly came to grips with the man they regarded as Bill Clinton's evil twin.
Was the staff resentful of Morris?
Resentful? They despised him. We all despised him.
Dick was a whirling dervish of egocentric obnoxion.
But they all knew Morris, far more than any of them, now had the president's ear.
Over the course of the first 9 months of 1995, no single person had more power over the president, and therefore over the government, than Dick Morris. No question about it.
The favorite West Wing joke was that the president had developed a split personality. Daytime Clinton worked with his regular staff, but nighttime Clinton belonged to Dick Morris. The team feared the president now relied on polling data more than on principles. It got so bad that even Clinton's vacation plans were determined by Dick Morris's polls.
My view was, you're president of the United States. You've got to make some very important decisions on some very difficult issues. And I remember at one point basically saying, look, you know, Abraham Lincoln did not have to have a pollster in this office to decide what's right and wrong. And you don't need a pollster either.
The assumption that everything had to be poll tested, that you couldn't have a good idea for what the president ought to do or where this country ought to go unless some poll indicated that it would be particularly popular with the public. That alone, I thought, a little bit galling.
Hillary Clinton, another casualty of the Republican Revolution, was touring South Asia while her husband was in his post-election funk. Chastened by the collapse of health reform, Hillary was in full retreat, back to more traditional First Lady chores.
Objects in them are so,
this time she was on the low end of the Clinton
we
seesaw.
are very excited. Some of you may have noticed the Dolly Madison portrait that is in the Red Room.
After the defeat of '94, which Clinton in his own mind attributed largely to Hillary's health care proposal and the sort of left direction, Hillary had very little power in the White House in '95 and '96, never came to strategy meetings, was never involved in any of the major decisions, and really was out of the loop.
That April, as the cherry blossoms bloomed in Washington, so did the Republican Revolution. The contract with America was sailing through Congress, and the revolutionary-in-chief was still riding high. So high that the President of the United States seemed to all but disappear. Bill Clinton practically had to stop, shout, and wave to remind us he still had a seat at the table.
The Constitution gives me relevance. The power of our ideas gives me relevance. The record we have built up over the last 2 years and the things we're trying to do to implement it give it relevance. The president is relevant here.
So much attention was being focused on the Republican Congress. So much attention was being focused on Speaker Gingrich, the contract with America. And so the real question was, what then, where is the relevance of the president in this process?
He and his pollster, Dick Morris, took a bold step. They would position the president apart from Republicans and Democrats. In fact, they would cherry-pick only the most popular ideas from both parties. Their strategy became known as triangulation.
Good evening. Tonight I present to the American people a plan for a balanced federal budget. My plan cuts spending by $1.1 trillion. It does not raise taxes.
In the West Wing, many considered it heresy. A balanced budget was pure republicanism. But Morris didn't care what they thought. He took his orders directly from Bill Clinton.
They were Democrats. I was a Clintonista. My job was to help Bill Clinton get elected. And their job was to try to get the Democrats across the board elected.
And you didn't care if the Democrats controlled the Congress?
I didn't care at all. In fact, I feel that it was in many ways better for Bill Clinton if the Republicans did, because it permitted him to get rid of the craziness of the liberals in the Democratic Party and go with the centrist achievements that I think have worked so well for the country.
As you might imagine, the Democrats felt Clinton was selling them down the river.
It confirmed some of their worst suspicions that the president was prepared to sacrifice him in the name of going for some kind of position with the Republicans.
This was an election year, and Bill Clinton was determined not to let anything slow him down. He and his shadow, Dick Morris, had a plan.
The era of big government is over.
And so, thanks to the Morris-Clinton plan, was the era of big ideas. This time, no ambitious agenda like health reform. Clinton campaigned that year on safe, middle-of-the-road proposals that Dick Morris had validated in his polling. V-chips, school uniforms, curbs on teen smoking. And after anguished soul-searching in the West Wing, he adopted the Republican plan to reform the nation's welfare system.
I think vetoing it would have been the single highest risk. I think if he'd vetoed that bill, he probably would not have been reelected president.
And then Dick Morris was gone. A sex scandal of his own on the last day of Bill Clinton's triumphant Democratic convention sent Charlie packing. Shadow, Dick Morris,